Ecclesiastes chapter 3. There is a time for everything, a season for everything under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. But I will say this is a short chapter. I will say, if you're not in God's timing for your life, you're going to be totally screwed up for your whole life. And that is one thing people don't understand. God's timing. If God says it's a time for war and you did not prepare, you're going to be miserable. If God says it's a time for drought and you did not prepare in advance, you're going to be miserable. If God says it's a time for poverty, but you did not save any of your money over the last 7 years, you're going to be miserable. If God says it's a time for you to lose your job and you don't have any money, you're going to be miserable. It's a time for you to get sick. And you can't even afford to go to a doctor, you're going to be miserable. And how many billions of people live outside of God's timing on this earth? Well, about 6 billion. And how many billions do not follow what God's timing is in their personal life? I knew a guy once who wanted to marry a woman, and the Lord said, do not marry that woman. He said, I'm going to marry the woman anyway. And he ruined the next 20 years of his life, and then they got divorced. And God said, it's not time for you to marry, and I don't want you to marry that particular woman, but it's not time for you to get married. I have something better for you later. And the man said, nope, I want this woman, and I'm going to marry her now. And he ruined 20 years of his life by not following God's timing. Did you hear what I said? All he had to do is follow God's timing, and he would have saved 20 years of misery. What do workers gain from their toil? Nobody's asking that. You say, oh, I want a raise. Oh, I'm gaining something. I got a brand new $80,000 pick-em-up truck. And it's got loud mufflers and big, huge tires, and it sits, 3 foot off the ground. And that is a fool. The fool, don't ever argue with a fool because they're a fool. A fool doesn't understand. You're not, because you own that truck, well, the bank owns it until you pay it off. You didn't gain anything from your labors. All as you gained was more payments and more maintenance and more money leaving your paycheck. That's all you gained. You gained nothing. So you get in your truck, you drive it to someplace like the park, but then you're not your truck. You have to get out of the truck and do something in the park. So the other guy gets his family on some $100 bicycles and rides to the park, locks the bikes up, and they have fun in the park, and they save $60,000 or $70,000 by not owning that truck you insisted on buying. And the same thing's with the house. The people who own a $50,000 mobile home trailer in the Midwest and their rent's only $600 a month, do you know their family is just as happy as you are in your $500,000 house? They are just as happy back there in the Midwest living on nothing, living on like $30,000 a year, as you are out here on the West Coast living on $130,000 a year in your $500,000 house. Matter of fact, they don't have, their hearts are lighter. They don't have the heavy burden on them like you do. Because anybody can just keep making $30,000 a year. It's hard if you lose $150,000 or $120,000 a year job. It's hard to get another one of those. Remember during the Great Recession of 2008, all those people in Silicon Valley, they lost their $200,000 a year jobs, and then Silicon Valley never hired those people back. And they had, $8,000 house payments. They lost every single thing. You're not rich. If you owe a lot of money, you're not rich. You're just stupid. If you owe a lot of money, it doesn't make you rich. You're just living. You're pretending to be rich. If a rich person is completely debt-free, including their house, and still has $1 million in the bank, that's a rich person. But you got $50,000, that doesn't make you rich. You got some small investment every month coming to you, that doesn't make you rich. You're just pretending to be rich. What do workers gain from all their toil? When's the last time you said, why am I working so hard for things? I could be living with my wife and family and having fun on one income and enjoying life. I know a guy who stayed, his wife worked, they lived on one income, and he homeschooled and raised his two children, two boys, for 10 years. And then they're both adults now, and they're both on their own. And then he went out and got a 40-hour-a-week, really light job. And now the guy is an old hippie, and he's only about 47 years old. And now every single paycheck of his at a job he loves doing is 100% extra money. He took care of his boys and turned them into men, and now he has an extra $500 every week in this economy. And the boys are off to college somewhere, and him and his wife just live in a one-bedroom apartment and enjoy life. And they got a nice car, 100% paid, 100% debt-free. He has made everything beautiful in its time. See, God made things beautiful, but man makes them ugly. He has also set eternity in human's heart, in the human heart. Yeah, I want to live with Jesus for all eternity. I don't want to go to hell for all eternity. Yet, no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. I know that there is nothing better for people to do than to be happy, do good while they live, that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in their toil. There's the 5 things again, they coming up. This is the gift of God,